Good morning. It is a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Hope you all had a lovely weekend. Just 1 week left until we officially move into football season. And, of course, what comes with that, a new season of Glenn Clark Radio, which will be our ninth season of Glenn Clark Radio. Gets underway next Tuesday. I'm Glenn. He's Griffin. Griffin, did you get your hair cut?
I did, yeah. I was thinking about saying I got my ears lowered.
Yeah.
I had a teacher in high school.
Or you could say you got your hairs cut, because I got more than one.
Got a whole.
I still do that. By the way, I don't do the second part of it, but I do when I refer to it. I do say I'm going to get my hairs cut. I do. But I'm also an old man. I'm allowed to do certain things. My hip is purple. I'm allowed to do certain things. It's the way it goes. Busy Monday edition of the program coming up on the show today. I don't know how to pronounce Mike's last name. Mike Axisa. We need to get an answer on that. CBSSports.com. It's a question we've been asking a lot of people. How did this happen with the Baltimore Orioles? Mike wrote a lengthy piece for CBS about it. We will discuss it with him. It's CBS Day, apparently, because later on in the program, our buddy Joel Corry, former NFL agent now, also with CBS Sports, he's going to join us. He laid out a scenario where he believes everybody can get what they need to get in a Lamar Jackson deal. Even with the context of Jay Glazer's report about the Deshaun Watson contract, he believes he's figured out a scenario where all parties can come away feeling like they've won something. I would like for that to happen already. I'm kind of sick of this. We'll talk to Joel Corry about it. Jeremy Conn will make his triumphant return to the program. I believe he was back on his own show this morning, I think he was. I feel bad. I don't listen. I'm so sorry.
I listened to it for a couple minutes.
You know what? I don't feel all that bad. He doesn't listen to this either. Who am I kidding? I feel bad. He doesn't listen to us. And also this morning, our friend Tyus Bowser is going to join us. Look, I'll just tell you guys now, we recorded before Tyus was officially put on whatever the pup. What is it called? I don't know, the pup list. Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's what they call it. I guess
that keeps him out for the first 4 weeks of the season. So we kind of slightly danced around. Like I did address like, hey, hopefully you're gonna be out there soon. It's not like we didn't bring it up, but the reason why Tyus is joining us is because the bigger news for us here at Press Box is that season 2 of the Tyus Bowser Show gets underway in just over a week. Now we're hoping that Tyus is going to be back out on the field before too long, and he could return as early as week 5. That would be very good news for everybody, not just those of us here. I mean, everybody. This football team would be better with Tyus Bowser on the field. So we hope that's the case. Of course, Tyus, doesn't know just yet exactly when it's going to be. That's fine. In the meantime, Tyus will be bringing his special guests all over town for Season 2 of the Tyus Bowser Show, which gets underway next Tuesday night, September 6th. Come celebrate my birthday with me. I'll even let you buy me a brew at the Guilford Hall Brewery. I won't consume it. I'll give it to somebody else because I don't drink beer anymore. But I have been told the beer is exceptional at Guilford Hall Brewery. I'm looking forward to being there. The location is amazing. 1611 Guilford Avenue in Station North. Food's great. Beer's quality. We're going to have a great night next Tuesday night with Tyus Bowser and his special guest. And you can join us. And if you're wondering, is there a catch? No, there's no catch. Just come out, spend your evening with us, and we'll take breaks during the show, and it'll give you the opportunity to come up and say hello and meet Tyus and his guest. And you can bring one item to be autographed, and we'll let you get a picture with Tyus. We got to keep the line moving because we need to give everybody their opportunity to say hello and meet the players. But there is no catch here. There is nothing for this one. There might be some in the future that we do this season where we try to use them for our charitable efforts, and we ask you to bring out donations in order to meet Tyus. By the way, our friends at Grade 8's Memorabilia had an event yesterday with Isaiah Likely at Wise Markets in Perry Hall, and holy F. Isaiah Likely is a very popular man here in Baltimore, and they did a lot of good for the Transformation Center, which is awesome. So that was cool to see. But, we'll be out next Tuesday night. Tyus Bowser Show returns, Season 2. If you want to find out more, go to PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser. We've already got the first 4 shows announced, locations and dates set up for the first 4 episodes of the Tyus Bowser Show. We've got some more dates that we have nailed down, and we will announce them as we get closer. We promise that information is coming. We're going to have a great time with Tyus all season long, and he was telling me that he's already had some of his teammates say, yeah, dude, I'm in for this season. Last year was a little bit difficult. Some guys were still a little bit worried about, hey, being out around people. I don't want to get COVID. I don't want to. Like, we understand. And we did everything kind of safely last year and socially distanced, but there were still people that were nervous about it. Tyus was like, man, everybody this year has been like, dude, I'm in. So I'm stoked for that. Will be an exciting season of the Tyus Bowser Show. It's all brought to you by Maryland Vascular Specialists and the all-new Ginsu Grill. The Tyus Bowser Show is a partnership of PressBox and Grade 8's Memorabilia. And if for whatever reason you happen to miss the show live, you will be able to listen this season on, not only here on Glenn Clark Radio, we will air the segments of the show in the days that follow each Tyus Bowser Show. We will post the video up on YouTube and Facebook, but also if you're driving around on a Friday night, you'll be able to hear it on 105.7 The Fan. So we're excited about all of these things. I wish I should be following this up by saying, and we're excited, because that's a great transition, and we're excited about the Orioles going down to Houston and winning a series. That's exactly what I should be saying. I should be saying, and look at that segue, radio professional. We're excited about the Tyus Bowser Show, and we're sure as hell excited about the Orioles going down and beating the best team in the American League on the road in 2 of 3 games. That's remarkable. So why am I not feeling it? We addressed this yesterday, Rita and Glenn on The Fan. Thank you to those of you that tuned in. Our final Sunday show, we'll be doing a show on Labor Day in the afternoon, 3 to 6:30, and then we'll transition to postgame for Ravens season this year. Looking forward to that. But I addressed this yesterday in the 5 o'clock hour of the show after the game was over. I was like, I should, by any standard, this is insane. This is insane that this team is still in this thing this deep into the year and just went down to Houston, the best team in the American League, and took 2 out of 3 games. That should be a testament. It should be truly what warms the cockles of my heart. And my cockles are rarely warmed. This should be everything that I could ask for. In any normal world, this was where all of the fun ended. In a normal world, the Orioles go down to Houston, get their brains bashed in for a few days, and are reminded of who they are and who they're not. In a normal world, this is we get in here on Monday and we're like, this is probably about the end of it. This is probably where we look back and, you know, the good things fell apart like it was a Millennium John Bellion song. In any normal world. But this isn't a normal world. This is the 2022 Baltimore Orioles. And the 2022 Baltimore Orioles inexplicably sent Kyle Bradish, Dean Kramer, and Austin Voth to the mound, and the 3 of them absolutely shut down the Houston Astros. And because of that, they were able to win the series. I think you know why it is that I'm not feeling it. I think what you know, and you've probably felt a little bit too, is that the 6 runs that the Orioles scored in 3 games tacks on to the offensive troubles they've been having for a couple of weeks and leaves me with this uncomfortable feeling of, yeah, this was amazing, but can they survive if they're not gonna hit? And to be fair, it's not like they never hit. Of course, they had the huge explosion the previous Friday night against Boston. And they ended up scoring some late runs when they were needed in order to win games against the White Sox this week. It's difficult to define it is almost impossible to define exactly what the troubles are. Because the best blanket way to say it is we just don't think the offense is quite consistent enough to be able to get over the hump. Remember, they still have to make up ground in order to get in. Now, if they're going to pitch like they did this weekend, because this is different. This weekend wasn't a well-pitched weekend by the standard of expectations. This would have been a well-pitched weekend for Max Scherzer, Clayton Kershaw, and Justin Verlander. This would have been a well-pitched weekend for Sandy Alcantara. This would have been a well-pitched weekend for anyone. I mean, I guess Voth in that scenario needed to go a little bit longer, but still. This was insane what these three starters did. If I believed that that's what the Orioles pitching staff was, maybe I would still be able to enjoy this a little bit more and not continue to have the concerns that I do about the offense. But I don't believe that this is the story. If it is, one, holy crap, give Chris Holt whatever amount of money, lock him down to a lifetime contract, kidnap him, force him to live in the stadium forever. Just based alone on what Austin Voth has done since arriving, maybe we should do that. Again, I struggle. I know the starters have pitched well, certainly beyond any level of expectation we could have for this nondescript group. It's truly bonkers. But do I believe it can continue to hold up for the rest of the season if the bats don't come back to life? Not really.
And we got to put it in perspective, too, though. I mean, yeah, the offense has been struggling. It doesn't look good. I don't think this is a good defense for it. But Houston they have the best bullpen in the American League, I think is what they were saying all weekend. And then obviously, I mean, their starting rotation is probably one of the best in the all of baseball as well. So it's, you don't expect them to really, score 10 runs or, have 15 runs like they did the other night.
And again, if it was just this weekend, then we'd probably say, okay, so it is. So it is. But it's not just this weekend. It's been prolonged for the better part of the season. It's so funny because we were reminded of this by a caller yesterday, which was going into the season. Remember, the story of the Orioles was, look, they've got a professional lineup. They've got a legitimate major league lineup. But no matter how many runs they score, they just don't have any pitching. Well, as it turns out, it's the exact opposite of that. As it turns out, they've got all this pitching without even having their best pitchers. They've got all this pitching, and they just don't have enough with the bats. So what do? We still remain on Gunnar Henderson watch. It could be today. It could be that he arrives. It's day off for everybody. There's some rumors swirling about Grayson Rodriguez's future, and there being an announcement being made, and there are rumors that perhaps there could be more announcements coming, and that Gunnar Henderson maybe could show up in Cleveland this week. Of course, we all thought this was going to happen last week, and it did not. So maybe we ease up a little bit on all that. As I continue to say, I'm still uncomfortable with the idea that Gunnar Henderson, a 21-year-old who has never played in the major leagues, is supposed to be what saves the Orioles offense this season. Would it help to not see Rougned Odor in the lineup most days? Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it would take much to improve upon what it is that you're getting from Rougned Odor. So if you could just get solid defense and a little bit from the bat, then you're probably in a better situation. But the idea that it's going to completely change and, alter the course of what the Orioles are doing offensively, yeah, I'm I'm not with that.
When do we start talking about the guy that's batting fourth every night?
Yeah, that guy, we've semi been talking about him.
The first inning, it was first and third, nobody out.
I'm with you. No, look, again, he was facing Justin Verlander.
Right.
We have to be fair about that.
But he swung at 3 chin-high. I don't think he swung at all 3, but he swung at 2 chin-high fastballs. And
I understand. And look, that we've had a secondary conversation. And the two names that I'm now ready to put in it. I think there's a subtext to what's going on right now. Because what's going on right now is both macro and micro, right? In the micro, it's how are you getting enough offense to stay in this playoff race and get to the postseason when you still have ground to make up? The macro is, are Ryan Mountcastle and Austin Hayes really quality Major League bats that can be part of this thing for the next few years to come? Because we've known that guys like Urias were placeholders. Like, I get it, for a month here this season, we were starting to convince ourselves that maybe he wasn't. But for the most part, we've understood. Urias, Odor, those are placeholders. We thought Mateo might be a placeholder. We're now conflicted about that. We're conflicted about whether or not Mateo is a placeholder. We think actually at the moment that he might be a longer-term option, but we still... We're very much... I guess we're moving closer to that column. Those two are guys that started the season in column A. Guys who we genuinely believe were part of the solution for some time. And for a little while, Austin Hayes looked like he was the guy that we were ready to give money to and cement ourselves around. But now the macro, the subtext to all of this is, or are those positions that you should be looking to upgrade as soon as this offseason? And that's a tricky conversation to have. But we have to acknowledge kind of where we are. Anthony Santander, again, maybe somebody that we were ready to move on from. He's been the most consistent player from game 1 to now in this lineup all season long. Cedric Mullins certainly is deserving of continuing to be a part of the plans for the future, even if he hasn't been spectacular this season. He's still been very solid. And he does enough otherwise that you're willing to say, hey, maybe this is just a down year, you run that back out there. But those two, Mountcastle and Hayes, are the guys that I feel like we're sitting down now and saying, yeah, what exactly are they as part of the Orioles' future? What are you just penciling them back into the lineup in 2023 if you're trying to contend for something that matters? Or do you have to acknowledge now that you need to get better at those positions? I'm not telling you I have the answer. I don't. But you can only upgrade your offense in so many spots. The rest of the infield, we're assuming the upgrades will be internal. Gunnar Henderson is going to have a spot on this team. Presumably Jordan Westburg is not far from that either. You could try to go upgrade and get one of these shortstops that's out on the open market, but then you're moving on from Jorge Mateo, who appears to be more deserving. Or you're temporarily moving Jorge Mateo until Jordan Westburg is ready. There's only so many positions that are available. You're clearly not going to have an offensive upgrade at catcher. I don't think you're going to prioritize center field, although I guess you could make the argument that if you found a center fielder, you could move Cedric Mullins to a corner outfield spot. The problem is, once you move him to a corner outfield spot, you can't upgrade that, and you really do need to add one more bopper in your lineup. You do need to add one more true slugger. Right now, those are the two spots that you look at and say, especially if you're committed to not having a full-time DH because Adley Rutschman's going to have to DH a certain number of games. Those are your spots. Are you committed to these guys? Right now, I would have to lean no. But is that fair? I mean, again, we're only a couple months removed from Austin Hayes looking like one of the best players in baseball. Ryan Mountcastle is a year removed from being a genuine middle-of-the-lineup power guy. So is a disappointing couple of months enough to say, well, now you got to look for an upgrade? Or do you owe it to the organization to keep it going? I don't know. Now, those are, again, macro questions. Those aren't micro questions. Micro is how are you going to score enough runs the rest of the way? And there's only so many things you can do about that. Again, Gunnar Henderson is the most obvious thing that you can do to try to help. But there's a limit to that. You could stop letting anyone have a day off. I know that's what a lot of Orioles fans complain about. You could just say, hey, there's a month left in the season. Nobody gets an off day anymore. Sorry. Everybody's in the lineup every day. If you're hitting even a lick, you don't get an off day. I mean, maybe there's an argument for that. I don't know. But how many guys are really hitting a lick right now? I mean, who are we really saying isn't going to have an off day at that point? I don't know what else there is to be done other than to say you just have to kind of hope. You have to hope that one or two more bats come to life over the course of the next week and the pitching continues. The frustrating part for me yesterday was I don't know why it needed to be a B bullpen day. I don't know why a night after you only used one reliever, you needed to go back to your B bullpen. I certainly understand why Felix Bautista wasn't available yesterday, but I don't for the life of me understand why the plan wasn't we're going to let Dylan Tate and CNL Perez try to get us through these next 3 innings to get us home. Now, I get it. If the Orioles were only going to score one run, it was always going to be an awful lot to ask of anyone. But Brian Baker and Joey Crable? The B bullpen? When, again, you hadn't used Tate or Perez the night before. That part I don't understand. That part's the one that's head-scratching to me.
And then you have an off day today, too. Just
correct. Going to be awfully rested going into the Cleveland series. I don't get that. The plan for me all along would be I will ride both as long as I can, and then those two dudes, I will try to get them to get me through 9 innings. And if we got to get past 9 innings, different conversation. But that will be my intent. And I understand it's tricky, and I even brought this up a couple weeks ago. I understand it's tricky to have relief arms that you basically just say we're only going to use you in lopsided situations when you're a team that hasn't faced a lot of lopsided situations. It would seem as though you can't really wait any longer for rosters to expand. If you think DL Hall is going to be able to help you at all, you need to get him here. These are the things at this point. I know you're saying, well, you're only a couple days away, right? Like, what? Stop it. The B bullpen ain't working. You cannot trust the B bullpen in real game situations. And Keegan Aiken, unfortunately, has also moved into the B bullpen. Like, there's 3 relievers that you have any amount of faith in at all at this point. And one of them, you're starting to put out there for 2 innings every time he pitches. And I get it. I get why Felix Bautista is making a lot of 2-inning appearances anymore. I understand. But it's a lot to ask. All that being said, the Orioles did still take 2 out of 3 in Houston, and this thing continues to have legs. This ride, we're still on it. And, who knows? Who knows? The Orioles, of course, are off, as we pointed out, tonight. Then they head to Cleveland for a 3-game set with the Indians. And they're only a game and a half back of the Jays for the 3rd wild card spot. They're very much in the mix, but they got to score. The offense has to come to life somehow. They've got to find a way to get going. Want to see Matt Torper? I want to see the Orioles make a run at Jose Abreu or Josh Bell this offseason, or maybe Hosmer if you want to be cheap, because he would be a good platoon at first with Mountcastle. Nothing wrong with keeping Mountcastle and bringing in another first base bopper. If both are hitting, so much the better. Outfielder is more complicated because of the minor league logjam there. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I would still say that's a problem I can solve down the road. Like, to say, hey, Heston Kjerstad, Colton Cowser, those guys are coming. Yes. Let me solve that problem when it exists. That's always what if you're trying to win, I'm not assuming problems. I'm solving problems when they're in my face is when I'm assuming them. Right now, the infield problem is in your face. Gunnar Henderson's about to be here. Jordan Westburg's right behind him. I get it. Colton Cowser has lit the world on fire at AA, but we know how the Orioles operate. They're going to bring him up to AAA. They're going to make him succeed there next year before they'll consider that. And there are so many things that can occur injury-wise. There's just a million things that can happen between now and then. I'm not going into next season saying, hey, I can't address outfield because Colton Cowser might be here at some point. No, I need to put the best team on the field. Now, I get it. Your thought, Matt, about getting a first base bat and saying there's also a lot of DH at bats to be had until on days where Adley Rutschman isn't DHing. So it's kind of a good problem to have. Probably the case. Probably true. I'm inclined with you. They need a bopper. They need another guy, and if you're saying, I want to ride this thing out with Mountcastle for at least another season to figure out if he can come, whatever it is, he can get back to being a middle-of-the-order bat, I'm probably inclined to listen to that you ride it out for one more year before you kind of make a dramatic decision. All right, today's show is also brought to you by your neighborhood Glory Days Grill. Final days for you to take advantage of the summer seasonal menu at Glory Days Grill, which includes the South Carolina barbecue chicken. It includes the Cracker Jack Sundae, the lobster roll with the grilled corn. I believe they're keeping the opener on the menu because they damn well better with the flash fried pork belly and the Korean No. 2 sauce. GloryDaysGrill.com is the website for you to get your order in. Let's talk more about the Orioles. Mike Axisa. We got to figure out what that is. Griffin's on it. CBSSports.com. How has this happened? He's got some answers. We'll talk about it next. Glenn Clark Radio.
What's up, everyone? This is Tyus Bowser, and I'm excited to tell you that I'm back for Season 2 of the Tyus Bowser Show in partnership with PressBox and Great H Memorabilia. Join us on Tuesday nights throughout the season as I'll be heading all over town with my special guests. And, of course, our co-hosts, Glenn and Rita. Or is it Rita and Glenn? What is it? I look forward to meeting you guys and talking a little bit about football and a lot about life. And if you happen to miss the show, you can now catch a replay Friday nights on 105.7 The Fan. Get all of your details for the Tyus Bowser Show right now at PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser.
The next Tyus Bowser Show is Tuesday, September 6th at 7 p.m. at Guilford Hall Brewery, 1611 Guilford Avenue in Station North. The Tyus Bowser Show is brought to you by Maryland Vascular Specialists and the all-new Ginsu Grill.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Swagger is a daily fantasy sports site created for sports fans who want some skin in the game and a real shot at winning. Forget plus-minus odds, Swagger uses points for a better way to understand probabilities. If you're tired of losing because of one bad pick, with Swagger, you don't need to be perfect to win. You just create a lineup of 4 to 10 simple player props and score points for the ones you get right. So you can be half right and all right with Swagger. Swagger offers the most player props and biggest payouts of any DFS site, as much as 50 times your buy-in. Plus, you can play all the major pro sports, including your favorite local teams. If you're ready to play, visit playwithswagger.com/pressbox to sign up, and Swagger will give you $10 free to try them out. Plus, they'll match your first deposit 100% up to $100. It's free money to play with Swagger. Swagger, daily fantasy for all fankind. Playwithswagger.com/pressbox.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
Sports betting has come to Maryland, and we're ready to help you win some money. Tune in for Simply the Bets every Tuesday morning at 11:40. FanDuel Sportsbook GM Leon Twyman and VSiN's Aaron Oster join the guys every week to give you all of the info you need and offer you a few winners. And every other Thursday at 11:40, tune in for Weekend at Bookies as Andrew Stecca and Alloy Sports' Brad Kronthal help make you some money for the weekend. So come win some money with us on Simply the Bets every Tuesday and Weekend at Bookies every other Thursday. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. Watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline.
Hey, O's fans, enjoy Labor Day at the Yard this year with a full day of baseball, family fun, and a giveaway before the Orioles clash with the Toronto Blue Jays on Monday, September 5th at 1:05. Arrive early to celebrate Orioles slugger Ryan Mountcastle. Be one of the first 15,000 fans 15 and over and receive a Ryan Mountcastle t-shirt before catching the action-packed game. A variety of ticket options are available. Don't wait until the last minute. Secure your tickets now at Orioles.com/tickets.
Don't forget that full episodes of the show are available for free on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. But warning, you get what you pay for. You're listening to Glenn Clark Radio.
If you haven't picked up the new print issue of Press Box, it is available right now at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. You can read it all at PressBoxOnline.com. On the cover, as we move into football season, you find Mark Andrews, Bo Smolka really diving in to the unlikely path that the Ravens tight end took to NFL stardom. Again, that print issue of Press Box available right now. You know, the question we've been asking basically like every guest that we've had on this program for the last month, how did this happen? Because I'm still struggling with it. I've been watching it every day. And Mike Axisa from CBSSports.com really dove into that, as well as I feel like maybe he almost was listening to the show because he's basically touching on every topic that we've been discussing of late. He's with us now here on GCR. Mike, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes for us.
Sure, happy to do it.
This is the really weird part, right? What I'm struggling with, Mike, is we all know the Orioles have a foundation of young talent and more coming in the pipeline. We also know that they've put together a magical season. But is this season, is 2022 more about smoke and mirrors than it really is about them having sort of turned the corner? And are we still looking at a franchise that, like, whenever they're ready to compete for something more significant, it's more likely that the players that will be part of that are still not even here yet?
Well, I think it's certainly more, this is a legitimate turnaround than smoke and mirrors. I mean, when you have a team that has a lot of young talent, which the Orioles do, and a lot of these players are players that, I mean, have been in the organization for 5-6 years now. They were here before Mike Elias. When you have young players like this, they all kind of start to arrive at the same time, kind of come into their own. The team can get really good really fast. I think we saw that a few years ago. I mean, the Rays in 2018 are a good example, but the Braves did it. The Rockies even did it for a few years there, but they've kind of come back to earth. And the Astros, of course, with the Cubs. When you have a good young core, you could kind of arrive ahead of schedule. And I think if you gave, like, Mike Elias a truth serum, he would say they weren't really expecting to be a game and a half out of the last wild card spot on August 29th. I think certainly there's no one correct way to build a winning team. You know, you can't just do it through the draft. You can't just do it through free agency. You look at the best teams, the teams that win the World Series, the teams that go deep in the postseason, they do a little bit of everything. And this seems like the offseason where, okay, you've got your young foundation in place. You've got your homegrown superstar, Adley Rutschman. He's probably, if he's not the best catcher in baseball already, he probably will be by this time next year. Okay, this offseason is when you should start adding to this team. And maybe that doesn't mean going out and spending $300 million on a free agent. But there's some pieces there where you could always add another starting pitcher. Maybe you get a more reliable veteran bat for the middle lineup. There's ways to improve the core. But, yeah, I think this is certainly like a real step forward for them. This isn't fluke where, you know, if you kind of the cautionary tale of the Tigers last year. The Tigers were, I think they were over 500 for their last something like 120 games, and then this year they completely fell flat. I feel much more better about this Orioles team than I did last year's Tigers team. Last year's Tiger team, that was certainly more fluky than this year's Orioles team.
Let me try to, because I know what you're saying, and I think you're right. I think what I'm struggling with is specifically like the position players. We were just having a conversation a couple minutes ago, Mike, about Austin Hayes and Ryan Mountcastle, who are both big parts of this team, but I look at both of them and I'm not really sure if they're high-level major league hitters that the Orioles should be making plans to have be part of this. And it's a weird conversation to be having because here they are in the thick of a playoff race, and yet we're kind of talking. We're doing both macro and micro here, right? Like we're both looking at the desire to get in, and then we're really looking at the desire to take a next step as a franchise. And to your point, the money they might spend. And those are two examples of guys like Austin Hayes for the first 3 months of the season was a rock star. We were talking about a guy that maybe you'd go ahead and extend and you certify as a centerpiece. And now just a couple months later, I'm here scratching my head like, or do you try to upgrade that position as soon as this offseason?
Yeah, those are the tricky spots. And those are the two right players to kind of highlight there because Mountcastle, I mean, he obviously has legitimate power there. I mean, that's very real power. Not the greatest plate discipline, and you kind of always have to worry about a player like that. Is he going to make the correct swing decisions to really tap into his power and kind of get to that next level? And sometimes it happens, and sometimes the guy really takes off, but a lot of times it really doesn't, and he settles in as kind of a good player rather than a truly great player. I mean, the perfect example of this is Mark Trumbo, who had a great year for the Orioles a few years ago, but throughout his career, he's been more of a good player than a great player. C.J. Cron's another guy like that. He has huge power, but kind of low on base percentages. You know, first base and left field, they're not the most difficult positions to find talent in free agency every offseason. So if you wanted to upgrade that spot, yeah, that's a place where there will be options available. It's not going to cost you a ton of money to do it. If you want to make a trade, it won't cost you a boatload of prospects. I like Hayes. I think Hayes is a lot better than he's shown. And I think, you know, if he's not, is he a number 2, 3, 4 hitter on a championship team? No. But can he hit 7th or 8th for a championship team? Yeah, I think so. But again, if you feel like, well, maybe we move on from this player, trade him for another piece somewhere else, and then we sign a left fielder. That seems like an avenue as well that they could do. That's the good thing is they have options there. Like if you want to stick with Hayes on the field, you could do that and you'll be okay. If you want to trade him, that's okay too. Mountcastle's the one I have a little trouble with because the power is, I mean, it's legitimate power. I'm just not sure if there's going to be enough other there to really support that profile, and it seems like you might be able to get a better player down the road. So I'm not sure how he fits long term, but he's not anyone who's dragging you down right now.
No, that's the difficult part, right, about the entire conversation, Mike, is like I'm not trying to seem like, well, this guy stinks, or this is not Chris Davis that we're talking about. Like, this is a helpful piece, but you're just trying to figure out where the room is to take the next step. And I know you addressed, like, Gunnar Henderson is coming, and we think on the, Jorge Mateo has probably earned the right to stick around at least for the short term moving forward because he's offered so much defensively and what he does running the bases, and the bat's shown some life of late. There's only so many spots where you could say, here's how you go from, good to great, if you will, as a franchise.
Yeah, and I think Elias, he has good experience with this with the Astros, where they had some players who were exactly like you described. They're good players, maybe not truly great players, and Mateo's kind of a really interesting one because the good parts of Jorge Mateo are really, really good. I mean, when he makes contact, he could really drive the ball. He could obviously fly. Really good defender. But he's also got like a 270-something on-base percentage.
Yep.
He swings and chases out of the zone a lot. So he's like the perfect player to kind of almost like a stopgap where you're trying to transition from rebuilder to contender. But ideally, he's probably not the shortstop long-term. But, so, I mean, what do you do with that guy? You turn him into a multi-position guy because he has played the outfield earlier in his career. He's played other positions. Maybe he's, just to use the Astros comparison with Elias, they had Marwin Gonzalez on their championship team playing, it looks like a different position every day, it felt like. And maybe Mateo could be that guy. That's the difficult part. They're sorting out, okay, who's here for the long haul?
Right.
Who's somebody who is maybe just a stopgap, who's just kind of filling a role now that we could upgrade on. And I think, you do have Gunnar Henderson coming, so something's going to have to give on the left side of the infield there. Urias has had a good season as well, but he's kind of like Mateo, where it's like, okay, he's doing okay, but he's still got a sub-300 on base percentage. Maybe he's not long-term piece. So something's going to have to give there because Henderson's coming and he's going to take one of those spots. And I mean, if you're the Orioles, don't you have to think about maybe signing a shortstop? I keep coming back to the Correa connection because of Elias, but Correa, he's so young. He's going to play the entire season at 27. Next year he'll be 28. He's got the history with Elias. He's a legitimate superstar player. If you're going to spend money on a player, that seems like the kind of guy you do it. It would remind me of when the Cubs signed John Lester before they were really ready to before they were a slam dunk World Series contender, they signed Lester. Then bam, the next year they were 90-something win team and making a run. I don't know if the Orioles will do that. I don't think they will, but boy, if you're looking at the guy to get on paper, that would be him for me.
He is Mike Axisa from CBSSports.com. He's with us here on GCR. Mike, I'm glad you bring Carlos Correa up, right? Because it's everything you just brought up. It's why we've never been able to sort of drop the conversation in recent years. But I do start to wonder, not to take anything. I think Carlos Correa is a really good baseball player. But is he a $200 million baseball player? Like, is that really the way that a franchise like this, that is still more than, it's most likely that they're going to remain frugal otherwise? Is it really the best way to go about spending big money to commit to someone who, again, good baseball player, but, you know, the numbers the last couple of years don't register as superstar or transcendent necessarily?
Well, I think there's a lot of perspective needed with Correa, and I think we are coming out of this era of shortstops where you had A-Rod and Miguel Tejada and Derek Jeter and these guys who who hit like MVP caliber players, and they were doing it at shortstop. You look at the league average shortstop, Correa compared to league average shortstop, he is a superstar. I mean, I know his numbers this year, maybe they don't jump off the page as like, you know, okay, they're not Freddie Freeman or Mookie Betts numbers, but relative to an average shortstop, Correa is an absolute star, I think, and he's right smack in his prime. I think he's easily a $200 million player. I thought he would get $300 million last year, but he ended up taking the one-year deal. And he's still only 28, so you're getting all this prime. I think if, you know, and the Orioles, I mean, if they don't, I mean, a few years ago they had $160-something million payroll. They can spend. If they sign Correa and then don't spend enough around him to have a World Series contender, I mean, that's on ownership. That's not a Correa problem. It's not really a front office problem. There's no reason they should be spending, you know, only $100 million on a roster, if that's what it ends up being, whatever the number is, I don't know, because they've shown they can spend more. Your entire roster, I mean, you have no players under contract long term. I mean, I think you got an option for Jordan Lyles. John Means has a really cheap 1 year remaining on his contract after this season. There's no reason you can't sign Carlos Correa, lock up Adley Rutschman long term, afford your core players, and still add around them. I don't see why the Orioles can't do that. And realistically, if you want to win in the AL East, you got to do that. I understand they're not going to spend on par with the Yankees and the Red Sox, but you're going to have to. You're not going to be raised 2.0 here, where you're going to have a $60 million payroll and expect to kind of get into it every year and be in the race every year. That's just not a realistic expectation, I don't think. So maybe it's not Correa, but there's really no reason they shouldn't be running a much higher payroll within a year or two. I mean, and I'm talking well over $100 million, which is what they've spent in the past. And so it's not really unrealistic to expect them to do what they've done in the past.
I am in agreement with you. I just think we're gun shy because once upon a time we said, I got no problem signing Chris Davis because it shows that you're going to be willing to spend money, and then it was literally the exact opposite of that. That was the only money they spent, and it wrecked their franchise. So, you know, that's the only – We're all still a bit nervous around these parts until we see it happen. The assumption here is that when Mike Elias says they're spending money, is that the first thing they're going to do is they're going to spend it on pitching. I feel like Orioles fans are all in love with Carlos Rodon, but I think the problem with that is that like everyone is in love with Carlos Rodon, and that might drive the price to a place the Orioles aren't willing to go. If that's the case, are there other arms that would be practical that could fortify? And again, maybe it's not the need because maybe we're finding out that Dean Kramer and Kyle Bradish deserve to be part of this thing. It's so bizarre what's happened with his pitching staff that I don't know how to handle this, but the presumption has always been that pitching would be the place to spend money. What does that look like to you? What's practical to you this offseason?
Yeah, you know, it's a difficult kind of like offseason for just pitching in general. I mean, you assume Jacob deGrom's going to opt out, but I mean, are the Mets realistically going to get him away? No, I don't think. And even if he did explore options, are they realistically going to sign with the Orioles? No, probably not. And the worst contracts, the ones that really kind of mess up a franchise, are the big, maybe not $30 million a year, but it's like the $20, $22 million a year, 5-year deal for a player who is good more than great. You know, it's not the star contracts, the big money deal for stars. Those aren't the ones that kill a franchise. It's the big money deals for players who are slightly above average and not truly great. So you don't want to go out and give. I'm trying to think who's free agent. Someone like Nathan Eovaldi. You don't want to give him 4 years this offseason. Would he make the team better in 2023? Yes, but that's probably going to be something you're going to regret in a year or two. So I don't know if going out and spending big on a starter is big as in long term here. I don't know if that's the best thing to do. Maybe they look to the trade market instead and, trying to predict who's available. I mean, that's always tough. I think free agency, I think someone like Chris Bassett would be really kind of sensible for them because I think he's 33 now, so he's not going to get a long-term deal. If you could get him for 2 years, and even if it costs you $25 million a year, who really cares? It's not going to screw you up long-term. It'll help you. It'll help you in the short term, and that's what I think. I'm looking at the Orioles now, and they're a game and a half out, and it's like, geez, if they had just done a little bit more than sign Jordan Lyles and a backup catcher last offseason, they could be in the race right now.
By the way, it is. I tell you what. Look, I am still on board with the idea that Mike Elias is trying to build a World Series winner, and that this team wasn't going to win the World Series this year. But what's awfully difficult is that of late they could really use one more bat and one more bullpen arm. Like, that's been the thing. And that's what they traded. Yeah, that's what they got rid of. But
and that's what I think is. I think the Mariners are in the same position here, where there are ways to improve your team right now without hurting yourself long term. If you just maybe do a little bit more on short term free agent contracts in the off season, and you can't go back to last offseason, obviously, but if you could do things, sign a 1 or 2 year deal, that's not going to derail your plan. It's not going to block a prospect forever. There are ways to give yourself a couple extra wins in the offseason, give yourself a better chance without really harming your long-term plan. And it seems like a lot of teams are just those are the moves they're steering clear of. And the Orioles didn't do anything like that. I think the Mariners, where they are with their postseason drought, the year they had last year, I expected them to do a little bit more in the offseason. They're in postseason position now, but I feel like they still did some stuff there that they still didn't do some stuff there that they could have. I don't want the Orioles to be that team last year. There's going to be players available on short-term deals, even if it's a trade. You can't keep all your prospects. You're going to have to consolidate a bit and trade some of them, turn 3 or 4 good prospects into one great big leaguer.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the kind of trades you're going to have to make at some point because there's just not enough roster spots for everyone. And some prospects, they're just not going to work out. That's just baseball. So there are going to be ways to improve this team without hurting the long-term plan. It's just a matter of actually just going out and doing it because there's always really easy to come up with reasons not to make a move. At some point, you just got to say, well, we're gonna kind of jump in here and we're going to do this and let's see what happens.
All right. I want to wrap quickly with 2 because I know I've kept you a while. Mike Axisa, CBSSports.com. You mentioned the idea of signing Rutschman. I get it. Julio Rodriguez just got his deal from the Mariners, and everybody says, okay, shouldn't the Orioles be doing this? And I've been begging for this to be the thing that the Orioles do to show the fan base, hey, look, we're invested. It's a new era of Orioles baseball. This is still something that they have almost never done in their history in buying out arbitration years. There is always someone who says, yes, but Adley Rutschman is a catcher. Keep that in mind. And being very aggressive in this way, there's always a toll that might come from that. Do you have any amount of nerve at all about giving big money to Adley Rutschman immediately to try to get him to buy out a couple of arbitration years?
This is easy for me to say because I'm sitting behind a keyboard and I don't have any skin in this game at all. But if you're not going to sign this player long term, who are you going to sign? And I know Rodriguez just got his contract. He's several years younger than Rutschman, and yes, you do have to consider that catchers do age pretty terribly. But Rutschman is still, I think he's 24. He's going to turn 25 not until sometime next year. I mean, what more do you want? He's a switch hitting catcher who hits, takes his walks, high on base percentages, great defensively. He's basically Buster Posey, but a switch hitter, and he's the kind of player you lock up for. You give him 10 years, and if the last 2 years are bad, well, then you just kind of deal with it when the time comes. And I think with the Orioles, at some point, you're going to have to take a risk here where, well, look, if we don't give Rutschman, if we don't give him a big long-term contract now, then we're going to have very little chance of keeping him when he hits free agency in a few years because teams are going to throw $200 million at him, and that's probably not something that's not a bidding war we're not going to be able to win. So at some point, you got to kind of just take the risk, give him the big contract, say, this is my centerpiece, which what he's doing this year, rookie catchers, they come up, there's a steep learning curve there. It usually takes them not just a couple months. It usually takes a few years to really settle in. This guy came up and was almost an instant star. So I think you lock him up. I don't know what exactly the numbers are. The Rodriguez contract doesn't really work out as a comparable because of the age difference, but he's obviously, you're going to have to give him 9 figures clearly. And I think you give him the long-term deal, and I would trust him because he's a great player. He's work ethic, he has all that. If it doesn't work out, well, then it doesn't work out. But at some point, you're just going to take the risk because this is probably your only way to keep him beyond his 6 years of team control. And you don't want to have this great young core come up and then okay, you're suddenly in World Series contention, and then boom, your best player is approaching free agency just as you're really starting to become a World Series contender. You don't want that to happen. So I think you take the risk, give him the contract, trust the player. And I mean, I feel like if you're not going to lock this guy up, then I don't know who you're going to spend money on.
I tend to agree with you. And then in 20 seconds, can they do this? Are we asking too much, given how many teams are also in this mix, given the daunting schedule they have to face, while other teams don't have to face quite as daunting a schedule, like the Mariners? Can they somehow, given everything they're going through, get into the postseason?
Sure, why not? I think that obviously they have a tough schedule. But realistically, it's just them and the Blue Jays. I kind of look at it. At least that's what the standings say right now. Them and the Blue Jays, and they still have 10 games remaining. And so you control your own destiny there. You go out, you beat the Blue Jays in these head-to-head games, and you're going to put yourself in postseason position. I don't really trust the White Sox to they've been sputtering all season. They're not really in the race. The Red Sox are not going to do anything. You take care of business head-to-head against the Blue Jays in these 10 games coming up. I don't see why the Orioles couldn't go to the postseason. So I think it's likely no, but it's certainly possible.
I'll take it. At Mike Axisa, AXISA on Twitter. That's how you follow him. CBSSports.com, and we'll link up on Twitter. Really in-depth piece he wrote about the Orioles this weekend. Mike, is there anything else I can plug for you, sir?
Oh, no, that's everything.
Hey, man, really appreciate taking the time for us this morning. Would love to do it again before the season's over.
Sure, absolutely.
Mike Axisa, CBSSports.com. There's a lot there. Again, the macro-micro thing, it's just tough conversation. It's a difficult thing to try to figure out exactly what you do here. They got to get more offensively. And does the answer end up being, hey, instead of pursuing a Carlos Rodon, you say, we like the look of a Means, Rodriguez, maybe throw in Lyles, Bradish, giving Kramer another shot, or going with a cheaper alternative as a fifth starter. Look, let's be honest, they're going to make DL Hall starter next year anyway, so really Bradish is the guy that's the question mark. Like, do they say, honestly, we're comfortable with that as our rotation next year, and we're better off at this point spending the money to add another bat? Find out. Today's show is also brought to you by Swagger. Griffin was a winner playing Swagger this weekend.
That's right.
Finally.
That's right. It finally worked out. I hit a baseball one on Friday night.
Oh.
I did like the late Mariners-Cleveland game.
Okay.
And I hit, or did I hit? Maybe I didn't. I don't know. But I definitely hit on Saturday.
Let's lie and say you did, so it looks like you hit too. But you hit playing college football on Saturday?
That's right. I did my research.
So
I knew
random.
Isaiah Garcia Castaneda, the receiver for Nebraska, was going to have a big game. He did. So I hit his player props. I knew there was going to be 2 interceptions thrown in the game.
Did you really?
Yeah.
And this is the wild part. When Griffin says he hits, he barely went over 500. 4 for 7 playing college football props on Saturday, and yet, and that's the beauty of playing with Swagger, he won money. Didn't just get his money back, he won money despite barely being over 500. 4 and 3 was good enough to be a money winner. That's the benefit of playing with Swagger. Swagger is a great alternative, as we still cannot bet on our phone or on our computer in the state of Maryland. You can play Swagger instead. It's player props. It's parlays. It's a lot of fun. And on top of that, unlike traditional betting parlays where you have to win every leg, you can be like Griffin and be just average.
Yeah, I went 4 for 7 on the baseball game Friday night, and 4 for 7 on the college football game Saturday.
Mediocre, and yet a money winner. That's the benefit of playing with Swagger, because you're trying to earn points. And if you get enough points with the picks that you make, you will win money. And it doesn't even have to cost you anything. Because when you go to playwithswagger.com/pressbox and sign up, you'll immediately get $10 free to play with. And they'll match up to $100 when you make your first deposit. Free money for you to play with Swagger. Playwithswagger.com/pressbox. Playwithswagger.com/pressbox. Sign up today and have fun playing with Swagger. Well, mentioned it earlier. We had this conversation actually last Friday But we're really excited about season 2 of the Tyus Bowser Show getting underway, so it felt like maybe we should catch up with the host of the Tyus Bowser Show. That would be the one and only Tyus Bowser, and let's chat with him right now here on GCR. And joined now here on GCR by the man himself. He is back with us for season 2 of the Tyus Bowser Show, starting September 6th. He is Tyus Bowser. What's going on, dude? How are you?
Glenn, what's up, man? Happy to be back for season 2, man.
Man, this is so cool. I honest to God, I never know. When we do these things, and we've done a lot of them over the years, sometimes players are like, man, that was fun, but I'm done with that. I'm good.
Yeah.
You decided to come back for more. Why? Why was it that you said, I want to do this again?
I just felt like just growing as a person, just being out there, being able to express myself. This is the great opportunity, the platform to be able to show people who I am. I'm a very quiet guy, so just to have this show for another season, man, it's awesome.
Dude, I had so much fun hanging out with you guys each and every week, and you brought out so many great guests during the course of the year. I know you're gonna be doing that again this year, and I just feel like the show's a little bit different, right? Like, yeah, we talk football, we're gonna do that. That's the way it goes, but. I mean, what the hell? We can talk about hot sauce too, right? Like, we can talk.
For real.
Actually, the true story is that Tyus gave me one of the best pep talks of my life last season.
I did. I sure did, man.
I needed that.
How's it going for you?
Everything's been good for me, man. I'm really excited. Plus, this has been cool too, like having Rita involved. I love Rita. She's the best. So this has been amazing. I guess the real question that people want to know is how things going for you, right? Like that's the looming question everybody's wondering about. Maybe people were like, "Hey, is Tyus not going to do the show again?" Because no, man, you're back and you're getting ready. You're getting closer, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'll definitely be back. I'm feeling good right now. Rehab has been going really well, and just kind of taking it a day at a time. We're making the right steps, moving in the right direction. So that's all I'm worried about right now. And when I feel good, and you'll see me back on the field.
I have no doubt that's true. Again, the Tyus Bowser Show starts Tuesday, September 6th. We'll be at Guilford Hall Brewery, 7 o'clock. Looking forward to it. Great sponsors this year, Maryland Vascular Specialists, Ginsu Grills. Happy to have them out. Wait a second, Tyus, are you a man, you like to grill yourself a little bit?
Man, see, I hate to say this, but I can't say I don't know how to grill. Because my dad is always grilled, so I kind of pay attention to what he does. But for me personally, I haven't really just grilled like that. So that's definitely something that I want to get into.
We might have to make that a priority with our friends at Ginsu Grills this year. Might have to make it happen. So what did your off season look like? Give me. I know obviously rehabbing was a big part of it, but did you get anywhere? I know you got back home, spent some time there. What was the off season all like for you?
So really, the off season, once I got back home from my surgery and stuff, was pretty much just chilling at the house for the most part. So with so much time on my hand, I've been really trying to get the house together. I bought a house in Houston 2 years ago, so I actually had the opportunity to sit down and actually brainstorm and think of some stuff. Go online and look up a few things to figure out what works for the house. So that's literally what I've been locked in on, along with some financial stuff that I've been doing. Bought me some land back home in Tyler. So just trying to do some small things to kind of be productive during that long period of just rehab and stuff. So
I get that. Anything like, and are you doing the projects yourself? Are you the type that's like, I'm going to go attempt to like lay the foundation, or are you like, dude, I'm way too smart to think that I should be doing this myself?
You know, what's crazy? Part of me is interested in it because I kind of look at a few things on Pinterest and see what works, what type of vibe I'm looking for, colors, things like that. So a lot of the house I was able to do on my own.
Wow.
But I can't get it specifically by myself. But I've had some help, some insight from good friends, specifically the women, because I've always been told that women have the best thought process when it comes to stuff like that. So I've had a little help, but for the most part, the things that I've gotten is pretty much been on my own. So.
Bro, we are doing some remodeling at my house right now, and Mrs. Clark is handling all of the planning because inevitably she comes into me. She's like, "Hey, do you care what color the bathroom is?" And I'm like, "Do you want me to care?"
Hey, man. Hey, she knows what she's doing. So
That's
you just
that's the thing, right? Like, she knows exactly what she wants. She doesn't really want me to like feel strongly about something. She just wants me to say, you know what you're doing.
She just wants you to feel like you're a part of it, or she doesn't feel like she's just leaving you out of it, you know?
It's so true, dude.
So I respect asking you that question, even though she knows the answer already.
And I've learned enough to know to say, hey, what are you thinking? What color are you thinking? Yeah, you know what? Blue sounds really good to me. I think I like blue.
Sounds good.
Right.
Hey, happy wife, happy life, man.
Bro, I have learned that lesson a ton. So people regularly bring up, I don't know if you remember this, we made last year during the season, we made plans to during this upcoming off season that we are going to go rent the Jersey Shore house out and we're going to party. You still down for doing that?
100%.
Yo, I can't wait.
I can't wait either. I just need details. Let me know whatever.
Who was it that was out with us that night that wanted to come with us? Do you remember who it was? Was it Adafe? Was that who it was?
I think it was because he's from the Jersey area.
Right?
So I think so.
Dude, we're doing that. What have you been watching like over the course? What, you're rehabbing. Imagine you're not able to go out every night, right? Like what have been your go-tos to watch?
Oh man. I would say P Valley.
Okay.
P Valley. I would put in Atlanta.
Okay.
With Childish Gambino.
Yep. Genius.
Snowfall.
Dude, so good.
Then on Snowfall. And a few Tyler Perry shows. What's one? The Oval, Sisters.
Okay.
A few, little shows that just keep my attention, a little drama here and there, just to, excite me, things like that.
It.
But
I like it. Did you get out of the movie?
And I can't forget Euphoria, too. I checked out Euphoria.
Bro, this is the first moment where I realized how old I am because I turned on Euphoria because all the young people in my life are like, dude, you got to watch Euphoria. I turn it on, and I'm like starting to feel being a father. I'm like, no, don't do that.
Oh, man. You know what's crazy? It's like I look at it, I'm like, a lot of stuff I ain't never been through or seen or just, witnessed. So it's crazy when you actually see the lives of other kids and in other different cities, different places, things like that. And this is what they actually go through, especially in today's age. So, you respect it, you understand, and you try to find ways to advocate for them and do whatever you can to help them in the best way. So I actually liked the show. It was awesome.
I dig. Look, I'm going to keep going. I promise you, I'm going to keep going. And these are very attractive people on Euphoria. Yeah. They are just, they are out there, bro.
Thanks, man.
Having to watch. Are you the type that you want to stay away until you're ready? You don't want to be out there on the field. You don't want to everybody's different, right? Some guys just want to watch everything and help with coaching and be involved with guys. Other guys are like, dude, it hurts me. I just want to be out there. And so if I can't be out there, I kind of want to be away. What's your mentality been like? Have you been able to be involved with the guys on a day-to-day basis while they've been out on the field? Or have you been like, nah, dude, I got to worry about me?
For the most part, I've just been kind of focusing on getting myself back on the field because, like you said, being out there, being around the guys, coaching them and stuff, you see different things. And it's like, man, I wish I was out there to be around those guys, But I understand the position I'm in, and I understand that I have a job to do, and that's to do whatever I can to get back healthy so I can get on the field and help these guys win. So that's pretty much been my main focus this entire time that we've been in camp. And so far it's been good, but at the same time, you're in meetings, you're looking at film, and I'm teaching these guys whatever's needed so that there's no letdown, there's no drop off, whenever I come back or whenever the season starts. So I'm doing what I can to just be a leader out here for these guys.
Tyus, I've asked this question for a few guys. I feel like nationally people have completely forgotten what happened to you guys last season and that legitimately half of the roster was out. And yet y'all still, before the last stretch, y'all still were sitting there at 8-3. You were in great shape. Yes. Do you feel like the country is kind of sleeping on the Baltimore Ravens. And when you're back out there, the running backs are all, like, we know J.K. is back already. Like, that when everybody's back out there, you guys are going to go right back to being that Super Bowl team that we all knew you were on your way to being.
Yeah, man. I feel like we have the veterans, we have the rookies, we have the role players, we have the coaches, we have the organization to, get ourselves back to that position. And that's how we've always been, which is great to be a part of. And we understand the situation of last year with injuries, and, that always plays a big part within the season and how you guys perform during each week. But we understand that we're going to come out here, and not prove anything to anybody, because we're just focused on us and focusing on, being a better defense, being a better offense, special teams, organization overall, so that we can perform at our best, and we just let the rest handle itself. But for the most part, if people are asleep, man, let them keep sleeping, but we'll wake them up pretty soon. So.
I dig it. And I love the fact that despite the fact that you're not out there, you're still throwing the football around with everybody before the game. Like, that's never going away. That's the rest of your career, right?
Yeah, and it's crazy. That was probably one of the things I was looking forward to the most, is just being able to engage with the fans again. Because, I left out the game, and, that's a long 8 months of not being around, fans and just being focused on myself. So just to be around the guys again, be in the stadiums, be around fans who support us, whether that's, here in Baltimore or in Arizona, wherever we at, it's just cool to be able to engage with them and, develop and create memories with them. So
awesome, man.
I enjoy it.
It's awesome. All right, Tuesday, September 6th, we will be at Guilford Hall Brewery, 1611 Guilford Avenue in Baltimore. We're coming to you this season. We did that last year. Went all over the place. We're going to do it again this year. Tyus and special guests basically every other Tuesday. There's a couple weeks where it'll move around a little bit, but basically every other Tuesday this season, and we can't wait for it. Dude, seriously, I love this show so much. Had so much fun hanging out with you guys every week. You're a joy to do shows with. I can't wait for you, because I know how much it'll mean when you get to step back out on the field as well. But in the meantime, looking forward to this, dude. Thank you for coming back and doing this for another year, and we will be thrilled for September 6th at Guilford Hall Brewery.
Absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to it.
It's Tyus Bowser, of course, looking forward to getting him back on the football field, and, that's probably the priority, but we're selfishly excited about having him out again. And if you didn't get to come out to any of the events that we did a year ago, Tyus is, and I'm not kidding when I say this, the single nicest human that we've ever had as part of a player show over the years. And I've done player shows with a lot of great guys that, change the way that I view the world. Guys like Brendan Iambadejo and Jameel McClain and Dennis Pitta, and the list goes on. Bryant McKinnon. I've done so many, Arthur Jones, done so many player shows over the years with various guys. But when we decided to bring it back last year and we got hooked up with Tyus, I was blown away. Tyus is too personable, in fact. Like, it becomes uncomfortable. I have to tell him, dude, you got to stop. You got to stop. We got to keep this train moving in order to do the show. But he's a remarkable man. And so I'm looking forward to another season of that. It'll get underway September 6th, Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North. Look forward to seeing you there. Tonight, Stan the Fan Charles, Ross Grimsley, and BaltimoreBaseball.com's Rich Dubroff will be talking baseball, Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. If you miss it live, you'll be able to see it tomorrow, YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline or PressBoxOnline.com/video. When we come back in, Joel Corry, former NFL agent, now he's an analyst for CBS Sports.com and CBS Sports in general. He's got an idea, a thought for how everyone can get what they need to get and get the deal done finally with the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. He'll explain it to us next. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Swagger is a daily fantasy sports site created for sports fans who want some skin in the game and a real shot at winning. Forget plus-minus odds, Swagger uses points for a better way to understand probabilities. If you're tired of losing because of one bad pick, with Swagger, you don't need to be perfect to win. You just create a lineup of 4 to 10 simple player props and score points for the ones you get right. So you can be half right and all right with Swagger. Swagger offers the most player props and biggest payouts of any DFS site, as much as 50 times your buy-in. Plus, you can play all the major pro sports, including your favorite local teams. If you're ready to play, visit playwithswagger.com/pressbox to sign up, and Swagger will give you $10 free to try them out. Plus, they'll match your first deposit 100% up to $100. It's free money to play with Swagger. Swagger, daily fantasy for all fankind. Playwithswagger.com/pressbox.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn, over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
What's up, everyone? This is Tyus Bowser, and I'm excited to tell you that I'm back for Season 2 of the Tyus Bowser Show in partnership with Pressbox and Great H Memorabilia. Join us on Tuesday nights throughout the season as I'll be heading all over town with my special guests, and of course, our co-hosts, Glenn and Rita. Or is it Rita and Glenn? What is it? I look forward to meeting you guys and talking a little bit about football and a lot about life. And if you happen to miss the show, you can now catch a replay Friday nights on 105.7 The Fan. Get all of your details for the Tyus Bowser Show right now at PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser.
The next Tyus Bowser Show is Tuesday, September 6th at 7 p.m. at Guilford Hall Brewery, 1611 Guilford Avenue in Station North. The Tyus Bowser Show is brought to you by Maryland Vascular Specialists and the all-new Ginsu Grill.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
Come experience Maryland's #1 sportsbook this NFL season at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, the ultimate place for any sports enthusiast. Take advantage of our 24/7 kiosks, massive video screens, and watch all the action from the best seat in the house. With more money paid out than anyone around, make every moment more at the new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
Summer is in full swing, and so is the summer seasonal menu at Glory Days Grill. Start with the opener, flash fried pork belly with their popular Korean No. 2 sauce. And try their South Carolina barbecue chicken, or backed by popular demand, the lobster roll with grilled corn. Also try the irresistible crab and lobster fries, or the very berry salad with chicken. And for dessert, the Cracker Jack sundae with a waffle, ice cream, and Cracker Jacks. This menu will be gone. Find out more and get your order in at glorydaysgrill.com. Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports.
To follow the show on Instagram, it's just Glenn Clark Radio. And to follow the show on OnlyFans, wait, I don't think you're supposed to know about that one. Any hoodle. Take it away, boys.
Hey, we're talking some Ravens here this hour, and today at PressBoxOnline.com, I've got a column up that is sort of my Ravens preview column, if you will, for the season. I offer 3 reasons for optimism, 3 reasons for pessimism as the Ravens get underway. By the way, I ended up at the game on Saturday night.
Congratulations. Probably had a blast.
The kids.
You're part of history.
The kids had a blast.
You're
part of history.
Part of history.
The kids had a blast, which is the reason why we were there. Please, no one ever tell them that wasn't actually Justin Tucker. It was enough all day for them to keep asking me about Lamar. I did not have it in my heart to inform them that it wasn't Justin Tucker who was doing the kicking. I swear to God, my boy, they're like, Tucker's coming out. Yeah, buddy. He sure is. Sure is, pal. Couldn't do it. Yeah. Gross. Like the only guy, I'm like, literally the kids are watching the game. I've got my phone up with the Orioles game on. They're like, Dad, what about that? I'm like, yeah, it seemed great.
You weren't admiring that red zone defense?
We didn't stay.
By the Baltimore Ravens?
We didn't make it to the end of the second quarter. We did not stay very long. We did not stay long.
Saw a couple stops.
But the preseason is over. The Ravens will make decisions about their roster now over the next 24 hours, and that even is a bit complicated because what you're likely to see is an initial roster that will include guys that are going to be moved to IR. And so it won't be until like later in the week, midweek, later in the week, that you really know who's on the roster. I think the big questions are guys like Tony Jefferson, veterans like Brent Urban and Steven Means. Did Josh Ross really do enough to win an inside linebacker spot? As you know, he was sort of battling it, we think, with Christian Welch, who was a popular special teams player. But Josh Ross had a great preseason, so is that enough for him to have nailed down a spot? Charlie Kolar will be on the initial roster, but then moved to the IR. So we'll see how these next couple days go. And then the running back situation is kind of unclear. How many running backs will they keep, given the uncertainty of J.K. Dobbins' status to start the season? Of course, the big news that we missed out last week was that Ronnie Stanley passed his physical. When will we actually see him on the field? It could be week 1. But, there was hope a year ago at this time, and I don't like thinking back on how that played out for the Ravens and Ronnie Stanley a year ago. So I'm still being cautious about that. We'll get some more information in the coming days as the Ravens make the roster moves to get down to 53. The other thing that looms over the Ravens as the season gets underway is, of course, the contract status for one Lamar Jackson. And last week, Fox's Jay Glazer reported that the Deshaun Watson deal was complicating things in a way that, frankly, makes sense. So our next guest went to CBSSports.com and laid out a scenario by which everyone could kind of win on a deal like this. Lamar Jackson could get the deal he should get, while the Ravens could avoid giving out another fully guaranteed deal and pissing off the rest of the NFL in the process. Joining us to explain that, he is a former NFL agent and now, of course, an analyst for CBS. He is our friend Joel Corry, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Joel, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's good to catch up. Thank you, as always, for taking the time for us.
Thanks for having me.
I imagine the first thought is you probably wouldn't mind being Lamar Jackson's agent at this point in your life, would you?
Yeah, it also mean I'd be the NFL MVP a couple of years ago since he's his own agent.
It's a fact.
But, yeah,
That's
if he
a
didn't
fact.
have a traditional agent, I wouldn't mind being Lamar Jackson's agent.
The scenario that you lay out is really interesting to me because I remember, and I want to say you and I had this conversation after Deshaun Watson, where I said, hey, I get where people are saying, hey, this is going to be an anomaly, but why would any quarterback not immediately walk in and say, okay, this is the market now? I didn't understand it in the aftermath of the Mahomes deal when people were like, well, that's just the deal that Patrick Mahomes can get. I was like, what makes you think it works that way? Why wouldn't any quarterback say, that's the market now. You can be as mad about it as you want. That's what you have to pay me moving forward. And I know that Kyler Murray didn't get that deal, but I still don't understand why Lamar or anybody else wouldn't try to get it.
Oh, yeah, that's the move. Your first move is, I don't care what Kyler Murray got. I'm pointing to the guy who's in the same division, Deshaun Watson. He got the fully guaranteed contract. I'd want an MVP. There are no off-the-field issues with me. Then you've got to pay me slightly more on a fully guaranteed contract. Now, you start looking at your alternatives if you can't get what you want. Now, Lamar Jackson seemingly isn't afraid of playing the franchise tag game like Kirk Cousins. Personally, I think that's where this thing heads. You're not going to get a deal done because the Ravens don't want to give fully guaranteed contracts. He's going to be adamant about it, so he plays it out, goes there. But you start looking at your alternatives, and then I started thinking, if I couldn't get a fully guaranteed contract and I was going to give on that, what would I have to get if I represented Lamar Jackson to give up the fully guaranteed contract? The first premise being, if I'm not getting a fully guaranteed contract, that is a monumental concession because it basically stops the momentum of anybody else getting one.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to give me every other point in the deal if you don't want to do fully guaranteed contract that much.
So let me cover two things. Should the Ravens be this hellbent to not give a fully guaranteed? We get it. We understand that everybody else in the league is pissed off at the Browns because of what they did. But are we going to look 2 years down the road and see that the quarterback desperate teams are going to say, look, if that's what we got to do, that's what we got to do? I mean, Seattle is going into a season where they literally don't have a quarterback. They're just going to line up and try without one and see what happens. Are we going to see the quarterback desperate teams saying, look, man, we can pretend like we're mad about it all we want, but this is still the quarterback position that we're talking about? And if that's the case, should the Ravens say, hey, it's unfortunate, but, we got to do what we got to do too?
Well, I think if the Ravens hold the line, it's going to be history repeating itself. Cousins got the fully guaranteed contract. The next two big deals weren't, which were Matt Ryan, first $30 million per year player in the league, then Aaron Rodgers, who topped him. Neither got a fully guaranteed contract. Done. The one guy you got to watch for is Russell Wilson. If he pushes for it, he should get it. That owner has the deepest pockets of anybody in the ownership of Rob Walton of the Walmart family. Has I think an estimated net worth of $60 billion.
Yeah.
So the escrow put money in escrow is not a problem for him. Plus all the draft pick compensation they gave up for Russell Wilson, he's got a ton of leverage to get it. I don't think either of the two 2020 draft picks that are eligible for a new contract after the season, Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow, get one. Cincinnati doesn't even do base salary guarantees in contracts. So getting them to that point is going to be a monumental task, let alone going fully guaranteed contract. And they're one of the, in terms of cash poor teams in the NFL, they're basically at the bottom. So there's no way they can stick all that money in escrow for a fully guaranteed contract.
Joel Corry is with us here on Glenn Clark Radio. We're going to link up at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter the story that he wrote detailing this contract that would make sense. Let me go to the other side, Joel, which is an argument that I hear regularly, is that the guaranteed part really shouldn't matter all that much to the quarterbacks because the likelihood of them ever not getting their money is so slim, right? It's the quarterbacks that the teams go back to give more money to in order for them to help them out with the cap down the road. How many times have we ever seen a quarterback like this get cut or not get their money down the road? Should it matter so much to the quarterbacks, the idea of a fully guaranteed contract?
Well, quarterback has to first establish that there are fully guaranteed contracts for it to ever get to other positions, because you're not going to go, okay, let's give our great pass rusher a fully guaranteed contract and not our quarterback. So if quarterback position can't extend it beyond one or two guys, it never goes to anybody else. And this is not a collectively bargained for issue. In other sports, fully guaranteed contracts came from individual players exerting leverage. It's not something that the NFLPA could ever get through negotiating with the NFL. So it's up to individual players to get fully guaranteed contracts and then extend it out, and that starts the quarterback position. So if that's something that's important to Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, then they're going to push for it, even though you are right that for the most part, quarterbacks will get their money.
It's interesting what you're saying is that they're really kind of doing it on behalf of the rest of the players. That, look, we're going to fight. What you're saying is these other guys, they are at risk sometimes of getting cut and losing out on their money. So the quarterbacks have to fight this fight for the players at other positions that might be at risk in order to try to get more and more guarantees and sort of effectively change the culture of contracts without it being collectively bargained.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. The only thing which could change it from a collective bargaining standpoint, and the CBA runs through the entire decade, is you take the funding rule out. That's something that I think next CBA, NFLPA might really push for, because it's been in there forever, and it was the funding rule was put in when you had owners which potentially weren't going to be able to make payroll. These guys, that's not an issue anymore. So you really don't need the funding rules. Archaic, but teams use it whenever they want to prevent guaranteeing more money in a contract, and they're using it to prevent fully guaranteed contracts. That's really the only collectively bargained for issue which could change the tide, but that's not going to be until the decade of 2030s.
So, Joe, I'm going to be the dumb guy. The scenario that you lay out, right, where the Ravens say, hey, we're not going to go fully guaranteed. We're going to go a lot of guarantee, but we're not going to go fully guaranteed. We're going to do this 4-year deal, and it's going to pay you $50.5 million. Why would either party not want to go ahead and get something like this done?
Well, if Lamar's hell-bent on the fully guaranteed contract and that's all he can see, then this wouldn't be appealing to him. It should appeal to both sides from the standpoint that if he plays out his contract, he's going to get a franchise tag put on him. And the franchise tag that the quarterbacks typically get, and there have been 5 quarterbacks in the last 5 times. Quarterbacks been franchised in the last 10 off seasons. 4 out of the 5 times it was the exclusive franchise tag. That will be the average of the top 5 cap numbers minus a couple of adjustments at the end of the restricted free agent period next April. That number right now projects to $45.248 million. It's subject to change with new contracts, restructures, people being released. Using that number as a guide, 2 franchise tags basically gets you to $100 million. So that's an average of about right at 50 going year to year, plus you're giving up a couple extra years. So the average is about right. It would make it 50.5 be the highest paid player in the league ahead of Aaron Rodgers, who's at 50.271. So that's where the 50.25 came from. From a length standpoint, most of these extensions prior to Patrick Mahomes had been 4 years. His was 10 when he had 2 years left, and now Kyler Murray's 5. So if I'm going non-guaranteed contract, then I want the 4-year extension that those guys got previously, and then Deshaun Watson's original deal, 4-year extension, Dak Prescott, 4-year deal coming off a franchise tag.
Okay. I mean, it all seems to make sense to me, man. Like, let's do it. Let's get it done. But I get your point about it might just be that singularly Lamar Jackson's saying, look, it's fully guaranteed or it ain't happening. Like, I am hell-bent on this one thing, and that's what it's got to be, or else we're not getting the deal done. And if that's the case, then, you know, it feels like kind of a wild game of Russian roulette that you end up playing with the Ravens over the next couple of years, and the Ravens sit back and wait, and then maybe, like, if that's the scenario, or the Ravens now waiting to see if, like, the next 2 quarterback deals are also fully guaranteed, and if they do, then maybe they acquiesce, or I don't know what happens if that really is the game that Lamar Jackson is playing right now.
Yeah, Russell Wilson's the key. That's the one. If he doesn't get one, it's a dead issue. Then I don't see the only way Lamar gets one is if he played out the 2 franchise tags, continued to play at a reasonably high level, hit the open market in 2025. Cousins, above average quarterback. Nobody's thinking that Kirk Cousins is an elite quarterback. Got a fully guaranteed contract. Lamar, 2025, hit the open market. He'd get one, but that's a ways off. Russell Wilson, I think, will be the key if Lamar, if his deadline passes the first regular season game, he's playing out his rookie contract. I think Russell Wilson is the key to where this thing goes.
All right, and then I'm going to ask the crazy one, and I know this is more the team side of things than the agent side of things. If this really is the case, like if Lamar really is hell-bent on fully guaranteed and the Ravens are hell-bent on not doing that, at some point do you think they have to think about a trade? Do they have to think about, hey, what can we get for this because we're not going to end up signing him? Or, you know, is it still, hey, let's just let this thing play out?
Yeah, at some point you have to start exploring your options, because if he goes to franchise tags, the most your compensation is going to be in 2026 will be a third-round compensatory pick. And we saw this year that Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson went for 3 first-round picks plus. So if signability becomes a significant issue, and this is more of an NBA type of thing than
right.
NFL thing, that you move a guy and get what you can before it's too late, then you're hitting the reset button and you've got a boatload of picks where you could try to start over.
Boy, it's an interesting scenario that they're in. Like, there's just, Joe, I keep wanting to believe, hey, this is just going to get done. Like, at some point I'm going to wake up and it's just going to, and in fact, a month ago, I was to understand there was a little bit of momentum, and now here we are just days away from the start of the season, and as you pointed out, this deadline, and I simply do not know. I simply do not know how this ends up playing out. CBSSports.com, of course, is where you always see Joel Corry stuff, at Corry Joel on Twitter. Joel, is there anything else I can plug for you, sir?
Yeah, got my podcast Inside the Cap. Got a new episode up last night on roster cutdown logistics and the Jimmy Garoppolo situation.
Awesome. Joel Corry, always appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Joel Corry, the former NFL agent, of course, now with CBS, and he really details. I mean, if you've read his piece, he details exactly why a deal like this makes sense for all parties involved. Lamar gets the richest deal a quarterback's ever gotten, gets paid more than Aaron Rodgers, but the Ravens get to fight and push back specifically about the fully guaranteed thing. And that really does become the question. Is that the ultimate hang-up here? Is it the poison pill in all of this? Is Lamar Jackson saying, I get fully guaranteed or I'm doing nothing? And are the Ravens saying, we're not doing that. We love you. We want you here. But we are not pissing off the rest of the league in the process. And it's in trying to figure out why we're still in this position, why something hasn't gotten done, it becomes kind of the most likely scenario. Everything about Lamar Jackson says he wants to be here. God, the man's got a tattoo of purple wings on his chest. Everything about him says he wants to be here. The Ravens have continued to build a structure that is based solely on Lamar Jackson. But does this come down to Lamar saying, but it's got to be fully guaranteed? Deshaun Watson got it. I've got to get it too. And the Ravens saying, it's me. I'll do anything for love, but I won't do that. Oh, no, I won't do that. I will do. Come pull up Jeremy so you can sing along with me. Pull up Jeremy. I will do anything for love. Anything you've been dreaming of, but I just won't drink that garbage liquor that you want me to consume. Hi, good morning, pal. How you doing?
Ironically enough, that garbage liquor helps cure hip injuries. So,
oh, God, dude.
If you want to try more Malort,
I swear to God.
It could help.
I swear to God. It definitely wouldn't have been as painful that day. That's, by the way, a hell of a thing you pulled to try to get out of coming to the party this year. That you're like, I'm going to go lick a bunch of doorknobs and see if I can't get COVID.
Glenn, you must be out of your mind. If you think there was anything I'd rather do on a Saturday afternoon than your meat in my mouth, you've got to, you got to.
I know that's true. I know
top
that's
of my list.
Oh.
I like your pork.
So what was it like for you? I mean, you seem to be sidelined, man. Like last Monday I figured, Jeremy, he's got COVID, he can call in. You seem to be struggling with it.
Well, my problem was, and there was a podcast that I was supposed to go on that week too, but my problem was I coughed so much that I lost my voice. So it was like I sounded bad. Like I was fine.
Yeah.
The first night was awful though. Like, I mean, I don't get the flu a lot, and I'm knock on wood, I'm not trying to get it or anything, but those body aches that people get all the time when they get sick, that's what I had. And I could not, I was burning up and freezing at the same time. It's really hard to explain to people, but that first night was awful. I was sweaty and sticking to my sheets, and I'd take the sheet off and I was freezing. And then, it was just, it was miserable. And then being alone in a room by myself, I mean, I found ways to keep myself occupied, but yeah, it was pretty, just boring for the most part.
Yeah, I don't know. Would you get to watch? Did you stream anything? What'd you do to pass the time?
So I watched all the sports documentaries on Netflix, like the Manti Te'o.
Yeah. Oh my God, dude.
Okay. I love the Bruce Jenner one.
I haven't watched that
yet.
But
my favorite one was Marty Fish.
The Marty Fish one, and I'm, Jeremy's not even the tennis person that I am. Although Jeremy, you play tennis. I mean, you like tennis.
Yeah. I was a big tennis fan in the 90s. I don't watch it as much anymore, except for some of the championship matches. I still follow along. It's not appointment setting the way it was for me in the 90s when I'd want to watch, Michael Chang or Agassi or whoever play that I was into at that point in time.
The Marty Fish one, if you've ever dealt with anxiety, is so unbelievably compelling. I mean, it's just incredibly compelling for anyone that's ever dealt with anxiety, just the way that your heart, you don't know how to explain what's happening within you. It is unbelievable. Let me go back to the Manti Te'o one, right? Because the national narrative, of course, and understandably, has flipped. And oh my God, we really screwed up. We were terrible to Manti Te'o when, he was truly the victim of something. Can I offer a hot take?
Yes.
Do you still struggle at all with the idea of someone perpetuating being in a relationship with someone for over a year that had literally never seen the person? Do you still?
It's weird.
I know that people can tell me, hey, online relationships are real now and they exist and it's a real, but like the part where he said he literally couldn't see her on. They would try to FaceTime, and Naya would do, the camera's not working, sorry, or whatever. Like, I still have to say I struggle a little bit with all of this. I'm not, look, this and now woman was clearly evil, and what they did is just wretched and unthinkable and the whole deal. But I am still struggling with the other side of it. And the fact that he lied to everybody and said that he had met her and said, like, I'm not saying that he's a bad guy. I just feel like we are being awfully quick to dismiss the other side of it, which was he was very much going along with this story.
Well, his own dad said that, like, he was still pissed off at him for falling for something like that. It's like, how could you go for a year without seeing someone? Like, we understand, like, when he starts telling the stories about what happened and this and that, like, you're like, oh, okay. When they sent the picture holding the sign and his,
right.
his hand signature, like the whatever, like
right. The hang 10 or whatever it is. Yeah,
that's what it was. It was a hang 10 sign. And then it's like, holy hell, like they pulled that off. Then okay, I guess I would believe it then.
Right.
But
that was over a year into the relationship at that point.
Yes.
That was one of the last things that happened within this like catfishing thing.
The other thing is, like, I'm watching this and I don't think people, because I think when she was telling the story about how this all happened, like, she presents herself as someone who was like trapped and like wanted to do, like, as things were going on, you start to feel a little empathy for her because her world's crumbling around her. But the fact of the matter is, like, she faked the death of a fake person and then brought them back to life because she wanted to get back into it again.
Unbelievable.
Like, to me, that's the craziest thing.
It's
and
unbelievable.
By the way, with all the documentaries I've watched, the best thing that I've watched is the John McAfee documentary.
I haven't watched it yet. Oh, I need to watch that. Oh, I have to watch.
Most interesting human being outside of Dennis Rodman I've ever seen in my life.
So he's alive, huh? Like he faked his own death.
We don't know that. So there's like, I think he set this up for that, but nothing would surprise me though. But you think, the only reason I don't believe he faked his own death is because everywhere he went, even though he was on the lam and people were looking for him, he would tell everybody who he was. I'm John McAfee. Don't tell anyone I'm here. By the way, I'm John McAfee. I'm, like, over and over again. But the stuff that happens in there, you're going, is this really happening? Is this real life? Like, it can't be.
All right.
So,
all right. That is on my list for this week. I will get to it this week, and we can have more of a conversation about it next week. I promise that'll be the case. I'm going to ask you a question, and it's a very important question to me.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what an engineer does?
What an engineer pushes buttons, sets up shows.
Okay, not a radio engineer. An engineer. If someone,
I was thinking radio.
Yeah, you go out, right, and you meet somebody, and they say, hey, you say, hey, what do you do for a living? And they say, I'm an engineer. Do you know what they do?
I would think that they were involved with building or putting together things.
Maybe.
Some math, maybe? Is there some math in there? I think so.
I don't know. I bring this up because it's been something that I've gone back to. It's a trope that I've gone back to for a decade. That big engineering is some sort of scam in this country, all right? I am convinced of one thing. Everyone who has ever taken a high school career aptitude test has gotten the same result. You're supposed to be an engineer. I swear to God, every single one of you that signs up for a high school career aptitude test, they're like, you answer these questions. It does not matter how you answer them. This is a scam run by big engineering to say you're supposed to become an engineer. And yet here we all are, adults, and we all know somebody in our life whose job is an engineer, and we have no effing clue what they do. And I'm convinced that's because they don't want us to know. I'm convinced.
Like trying to figure out what Chandler does for a living?
It's kind of like that. It's kind of like that, Jeremy. I am convinced that there is something unsavory about big engineering, that they're doing something they don't want us to know about. And I'm telling you this because today is, of course, the first day of school, and everybody's putting their adorable pictures of their kids up. I'm surprised that you don't still ask your kids now that they're grown men to do this just for the sake of the fun of it. I look at my son's little thing, my 7-year-old son, and it says, "What do I want to be when I grow up?" An engineer. There's no way he knows what an engineer does. I'm 40 and I don't know what an engineer does. What the hell is
those
going?
Kids, and there's no way that they're going to become engineers. They're definitely going to. Yeah, what they're going to do is be heathens for the rest of their lives.
That's 100% accurate. I
By
think
the way,
there's some hope of them getting into the world of professional wrestling. I think that's about what I have. It's either they become professional wrestlers or undoubtedly they end up in the mob. Like, that's where
they're
we're
the next
headed.
Kane and Undertaker is what's going to happen. Or they could be the Bushwhackers. That would
more likely,
more
far more likely to be the Bushwhackers.
But, I was thinking mine also, like, on my app, it did say engineering, but it said engineering carnival rides. So I think that just means an operator. Like, I push a button.
It was really odd when everybody was saying, "Hey, what'd you get on your aptitude test?" And your friends were like, "Well, I'm supposed to be a teacher. I'm supposed to be an engineer." And Jeremy's like, "Why does mine specifically say Joe Dirt?" Like, why? That is awfully direct.
Hey, yeah,
it makes no sense.
My parents left me.
I am so confused by how it is. You know what I'm convinced of, Jeremy? I believe that my son probably thinks an engineer is the guy that drives the train. That's what I think he's confusing engineer and conductor, and that's why he said engineer. That's my best guess, because otherwise it makes no effing sense.
Did I ever tell you the story? Like, it's like one of the cutest stories with my older son Peyton when he was in fourth grade maybe. It's fourth or fifth grade, doesn't matter. But they did a thing in class where it said, "We want you to tell us who your hero is." Now, like, I mean, come on, let's be serious.
Yes, I mean,
my oldest son, of course, Dad's his hero. Like, I'm looking on the wall for my name, and I see little Susie wrote her dad's her hero.
Right.
And somebody else, my mom.
I really hope it was Scott Garceau. I really hope.
It wasn't. It was Abraham Lincoln because he freed the slaves. And my son painted all these little brown people on a piece of paper with a white guy saying, "You guys are free. Do whatever you want." Like, that's what it was on.
Jeremy,
it's like a cartoon. I'm looking on the wall, and I can't even be mad because
I know. It's a good one.
I was extremely happy that he wrote that, but I'm like, I don't know if you should be coloring these people in. But
yeah, I mean, right. I'm not sure what the rules are for all of that anymore. I have no idea what the rules are. But I got to be honest with you. Abraham Lincoln's slightly better than you, bro.
Yeah, well, he's a little bit taller. Let's be honest.
He does have that going for him.
I don't know how honest he was.
He does have that. Yeah. Honest Abe. I'm so sure. I'm so sure.
This guy owes me $20. He's a liar.
Right. So. The hell is all that about? All right. So I guess let's talk a little bit about some sports related things. One, I'm in a weird place, Jeremy, because I know that the Orioles winning 2 out of 3 in Houston is amazing. It's monumental. It's all of those things. And yet them scoring 6 runs in 3 games is the thing that seems to stand out more for me, and it leaves me continued just uneasiness about whether or not they can really get over the hump and do this, considering what they're up against the rest of the season, their prolonged now offensive struggles.
So where do you, all right, I'm going to pose like kind of the question, or what you led me into here with another question. Like, where are you, if they had let's say they mapped out what their plans were, right? They're way ahead of schedule with the wins.
Of course. And
let's say they weren't going to call Gunner up by the end of the year, that they want him to play in the minor leagues and get more seasoning, as they say. And, we did hear that Grayson was going to get called up, and, but then he got hurt, and now Tyler Wells will be coming back, and D.L. Hall gets sent back down. Like, if they set up their plan for exactly what they want to do, is there something like, are you one that wants them to change up everything because they're close now, or do you still stand by whatever they do you're good with?
It's a really good question, dude. That's such a good question, because I have struggled with it. And I mean, you and I had conversations about this at the trade deadline, where I was okay with what they did. I couldn't pretend like I thought it was exciting or correct or any of those words, but I could accept it within the context of, hey, we need to keep a big picture here. And I thought that, frankly, they did better in a Trey Mancini return than I thought they were going to be able to do by being willing to take on somebody that had Tommy John surgery. I thought they got more than I thought they could get for Trey Mancini, so I could stomach that. This is interesting, right? Like, I do think that I get uneasy if the answer on Gunnar Henderson is we don't think he's ready. Well, then no, don't bring him up. Like that's I'm fine with that. What I worry about is
the numbers say different there, right? Like
right.
It feels like he is ready.
It definitely
depending
feels
on how
like
many at bats you want him to get.
That's the part that I'm not. I will never be okay with the hey, but we still have to think about service time thing because that's a bigger concern to me. We see what happened with Julio Rodriguez, right? Why are the Orioles still the team that's unwilling to say, hey, if a player's that good, we're going to go ahead and get it taken care of before they can reach free agency?
See, I've been screaming about this for years because you can go back to Evan Longoria with the Rays. You can go back to Carlos Santana with the then Indians. And Cleveland did this with a couple of their players. Didn't Grady Sizemore get a decent deal initially? I mean, they're all like, I love this business model that the Braves have now constituted. And it's not all the guys getting like team-friendly deals. It did happen with Acuna. It's happening with Michael Harris. It happened with Ozzie Albies. But the rest of the guys on the team, like realistically, they've got these young pitchers that they're going to have to pay. They paid up for a first baseman, albeit it wasn't Freddie Freeman. Like, I like that business model when you recognize, like, when we watched Manny Machado play, didn't we think he was going to be one of the 10 to 15 best players in the league?
Yes,
like
immediately.
We felt like that. So, and barring a catastrophic injury, which can happen at any point in time, even after you sign them to a long-term guaranteed deal in baseball, why wouldn't you then try to lock these guys up for a little less on the back end, but you're paying a little bit more now? And I feel like, Adley's a guy they can look at and go, okay, real deal. We know this now. We know what he brings to the table, and he's only going to get better. That could be a guy that they eventually lock up. I'm not saying you got to do it this year, but I'm saying I hope they start to do some of that stuff because I just think it's a great business model. I mean, the times that it doesn't work out, it shouldn't hurt you as much as going out in free agency and spending $300 million on a player or something ridiculous like that.
This is the part that I can't help but wonder why the Orioles are reluctant to do it. And we can have a conversation about Adley Rutschman and the fact that being a catcher is unique. But my God, what do we not see? We were just talking about this an hour ago with Mike Axisa from CBS Sports. We're like, what do you need to know? What are you still looking at and saying, well, maybe we can't do this? This is the model. There's nothing in baseball that benefits the team more than this arbitration structure that makes it easier to negotiate with players that can't get this type of money for some time down the road. It does behoove you. And to your point, are you going to get the Ronald Acuna type of deal? No, probably not. Like, that's still insane. The Braves pulled off one of the great heists in the history of baseball doing that. But there's still the Mariners are showing you if it costs you big money, it's worth doing because it's the value of the player that you're getting at this point. So that's the only part that I struggle with. I'm not trying to scream about it yet, but if the thought with Gunnar Henderson is still, but we want to protect service time, that is so much more damning for the organization because what they're really saying is because we're not going to sign him. And that's unforgivable at this point. Like, that really does become, you're the Miami Marlins. Like, if you're not going to sign your own guys, then you're setting yourself up to be an organization that never really has a window, that just kind of exists for the sake of existing. The concept of the rebuild was, let's do the Astros thing. Well, what did the Astros do? They signed their players. They said, let's get the talent, and then let's keep that talent here and have an extended window. I'm really struggling with this one, dude.
It's funny, you brought up the Marlins. Do you remember what their outfield was before they started selling and moving everybody? It was
Stanton and
Ozuna
oh
and
my
Yelich.
God, yes,
and
correct.
they had JT Realmuto behind the plate. Like,
Jesus.
Like, that's a team right there where you're like, those are 4 stars we could build around, and instead they had to blow it up and rebuild. Now, I don't think the Orioles are ever in that. Well, they're not in that place and shouldn't be in there for a long time. Hopefully, never again. But the fact is, like, the business model shows you where you want to be. Like, everybody was bitching about the business model that the Orioles had set in place. Like, this is BS. They should spend money in the offseason. Now you're seeing all these prospects that are coming to the majors, and we're seeing which ones are for real, which ones aren't. Starting pitchers that fail going, okay, well, maybe he's a bullpen guy. Some of the tweaking that's gone on where they found guys off the waiver wire, like Voth, who's pitching unbelievable.
It's insane.
Batista. I mean, all these guys, like, you look at them going, how the hell did this work out in such a short period of time? What they're doing with the financial numbers of what they're paying out, this should never happen over a 162-game season.
No doubt.
Where a team with the lowest payroll in baseball has a chance to get in the playoffs.
Well, and that's
it just should.
It makes you excited about other things happening within the organization. It makes you excited about Chris Holt, right? Like in what he like.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on board with that. By the way, Jeremy Conn is with us here on Glenn Clark Radio, and of course, Jeremy's picks are available every day at PressBoxOnline.com, which is relevant because you can take those picks and you can go to the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland, and then you can make those bets and win money. And that's important because I have to do 2 live reads during the course of the day, and I had forgotten to do one yet, Jeremy. So I apologize. I needed to
tell you how much I love FanDuel. So I'm a FanDuel guy through and through.
I needed to sneak that in there. We haven't even talked about that. We'll get to that in a second. But yes, I am. Everything here is weird, dude. Let me spin one more to you. Are you starting to wonder at all about the long-term plans related to Austin Hayes and Ryan Mountcastle specifically? Because I'm having these weird macro versus micro conversations, right? Where like the micro is, this is amazing, holy crap, this is so much fun, I can't believe they're doing this. And then the macro is, right, but are these guys really good enough to be a part of this thing long term? Are these guys really the players that should be here to try to win a championship? Or do you need to try to upgrade those positions specifically, like as soon as this offseason?
It's so funny that you bring that up because I had the argument over, like when Carlos Correa said he was going to opt out or the rumors were going to opt out, I said, I think the Orioles are going to sign him in the offseason, to which everybody replied, why? We have Jorge Mateo and we have young prospects in the minor leagues that could play shortstop. Ultimately, I don't think those guys are going to play shortstop. But if you can get a power hitting plus defensive guy at that position who, oh, by the way, that was the first draft pick that Mike Elias really made and kind of set the tone with that with the Astros, like, I think he's coming here. And everybody to a T was like, we have Jorge Mateo, we don't need him. And my response to most of us, I think Mateo's having an incredible year. He's still a guy that's hitting, what's he hitting now? 225, 230. Has it come up?
Yeah, a little bit,
I don't know what
but not. Hang on, I had it in front of me in 1 second. 230 with a 277 on base.
Yeah, so it's gotten better from when this started, when I posted this. And everybody came after me. It's like, oh, you can't get rid of Mateo. And I'm like, why? Like, you guys did this when we had Hanser Alberto. You did this when we had Iglesias. Every single person we have is like, why can't we keep this guy? Because you're trying to get better. And then the thing you have to look at, too, is in the offseason, which direction do you go in? It doesn't mean Mateo couldn't slide over to second or whatever. And I'm not saying that this is a foregone conclusion that happens. But you ultimately have to take a long look in the mirror and say, where can we make this team better? And, of course, everybody's going to go starting pitching. You need to find aces. Well, it's not the greatest year outside of Carlos Rodon hitting the market, but let's be honest about him as well, because he's a guy that came off of Tommy John, had a really good year. They were worried about him kind of petering out at the end of the season last year, and then he looks pretty good with the Giants again. So maybe there is something to say that could be a guy that you make a run after, but, there is that chance that he reverts back to the way he looked before the Tommy John. And there's names like Clayton Kershaw that could be there's not a lot of like great names that are going to be out there. Aaron Judge's name should be out there. Is that somebody you want to go get and pay top dollar to? So, I mean, and he's an older player. So there's a debate over all of that where you can improve. And I think the Austin Hayes thing is really interesting because we were talking about him midway through the season, maybe
he was Nick Markakis.
Yeah, like he was untouchable. And then all of a sudden you saw his numbers, end of June, but mainly July and August. His numbers have been really bad. And Mountcastle had that stretch with no home runs before he finally, he had that great moment with the home run chain where it's like, what's this? After he finally puts it back on. But I think there's a place for both of them here, but there are places where you can get better on this team, and it sucks to say it, but that's ultimately the decisions they're going to have to make.
And it's a difficult thing, man. It's a difficult thing because when I say I phrase it this way, like I do think a little bit of what's happened this season is smoke and mirrors. I don't think the rebuild is smoke and mirrors. I don't think the trajectory this franchise is on is smoke and mirrors. But I do think a little bit of what has specifically occurred this year is smoke and mirrors, and there is some risk of buying too much into it moving forward and saying, well, we're this close. I think that there is a good foundation here, but I still think the majority of a potential World Series winning roster ain't in Baltimore currently. I still think we're talking about a few guys that are on this roster currently that would be part of a potential World Series winner in the coming years. It's difficult conversation.
Yeah, I mean, the easy thing to look at real quick, Glenn, is you can look at third and second and say those are two spots that you need to upgrade. But you can also look at third and second and say, I feel like we have prospects coming up that can play those positions and play them really well.
Correct. And that's the thing. I don't think the team versus the franchise to me are two different conversations, right? I think the team is a good team that is outperformed, and it's a little bit fluky, and I can't rely on the ways that it's happened moving forward. But the franchise and the excitement I have on the whole for what this thing will look like in the coming years, that is not – I can't shake on that. Like, I think they have a great core, but they need to add a few pieces around in order to try to find something that resembles a World Series winner.
Absolutely.
You really won $50,000 last weekend?
Yeah, I did on Saturday. It was odd too because so like with COVID, I was getting up like I told the story this morning. There were two separate days where I got up, got in the shower. I felt better after I got out of the shower. Or some days I would even take a bath, just sit there and relax. And so then I would get out and I obviously couldn't go anywhere, so I'm in my room. And I would sit back down going, okay, what am I going to watch? And then immediately, like I'm talking 30 minutes later, fall back asleep for 3 hours. So on Saturday morning, I got up, I set my lineup. I love the Cubs-Brewers game the same way I did on Friday the day before. And that was an absolute, they just scored, I think they scored like 20-some runs between the two teams on Friday. So on Saturday, I came back to it, and people didn't play the Cubs and Brewers on an early slate because there was a little bit of rain. But from what I read, the rain was not going to affect. They should get the game in. So I wake up out of this stupor, whatever you want to call it, where I was just like kind of out of it. And I look at my phone. I'm like, oh my God, I'm winning. I was winning like $2,500 or $3,000 or something. Like, oh, this is a great morning. Like I'm happy. And then I look at the guy in first. I'm going, but damn, he's only 10 points ahead of me. And then I go, because I have like 6 or 7 guys in that Brewers game. And I'm going, well, let me go look. So the game was on. I turn it on. It goes to extra innings. And then I'm just nickel and diming my way. Like, oh, I get a walk here. That guy scores a run. There's 2 more points. And before I know it, I was in first place by like 7 or 8 points. And there was nobody that could catch me because nobody had my players. So I was really fortunate the way it went. And then I looked down, I won $50,000, and it was really cool.
I mean, yeah, it's really cool. That's the understatement of the year. Like, yeah, it was a neat little Saturday.
Well, I had one yesterday, Glenn, that I didn't expect because so last year in the FedEx Open, I won $25,000 on FanDuel when it was here in
the BMW, right? Yeah, at Caves.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, or the FedEx Cup, whatever the hell it was called. Yeah. But I won $25,000. It was the best lineup I ever had in my life because the guy that was in second place was like 90 points behind me. Like there was no doubt
Jesus Christ.
The entire day that I'd won it. So this weekend, you talk about winning 50, that's great. Well, I had a golf lineup that had Rory and Im in it, and like nothing was happening. And then all of a sudden I'm at a fantasy draft yesterday, and some guy goes, my buddy said, we got to turn on the golf. I said, you see what's going on? I looked down. I was like, holy hell. If there had been another day, I'd have probably had a shot at $100,000, but I ended up winning like $3,000 yesterday on the golf when I thought my lineups were dead because of Im and McElroy. But it was a lot of fun. It was a sweat that I didn't realize I had.
With all this money, I guess you don't need to bother suing South Carolina for stealing your nickname for their mascots.
No. Which one did you like the best?
Which one did I like the? Imagine putting Cock Commander out there and thinking that the answer should be anything other than that. Come on.
Well, I thought there were some other good ones. Like I think Ed and what was the Pollo one?
Marco Pollo. Yeah, I didn't. Trust me, I didn't hate any of them. Cluck Norris, I believe, was one of them.
Cluck Norris was Ed's favorite.
I didn't hate any of them, but you can't put Cock Commander out there and think that the answer is going to be anything other than that.
I mean, I think it's a great name.
Yes. Yes.
I wish. Well, I was going to say I wish that was my nickname, but that could mean so many things.
Yeah,
so I don't wish.
That's a good point. By the way, are you guys allowed to say Cock Commander in 105.7 The Fan?
I think so. I had some guy call me out for a meme that I posted on Facebook and that I'm a potty mouth and I'm mean and I'm evil. Yeah. So
I'm glad we avoided this subject yesterday on the show because I don't know if we would have been allowed to. I don't know what the rules.
If you could say,
I've been out of it so long. I don't remember what the rules are. Dude, there was one.
Have you heard our bit when we do the? So there was in the World of Stupid one day we had a There was a guy in Tasmania that jumped. You can look it up. Jumped into a wishing well, but because of the monkeys that live there, the macaques, they carry a deadly form of herpes.
Yeah.
To humans.
Yeah.
So like the hair from them was getting in the wishing well. The guy went in there, grabs all these coins, and he winds up with a deadly form of herpes from macaques.
Yeah.
So we keep playing the macaque soundbite all the time.
That's really good.
And
I'm not gonna lie.
saying the name of a monkey.
That's really quite good. Radio is so stupid. So I think I've told you the famous story. We had a little bit of a friendship with Ryan Dunn on one of the shows that I used to be on. And
cool.
One time Ryan called in and was telling a story about how he had I believe urinate. No, how? Who's the one that went to Uncle Vito? What was the guy's name? That was the guy from Jersey Shore. Who was the uncle? Who was Bam's uncle?
I thought it was Vito.
Was it Vito? It might have been Vito.
Yeah.
Uncle Vito had urinated on someone in a stunt, right? I swear to, I
didn't know you couldn't say pissed on. I think I've said it a couple times.
I swear you said you cannot describe that act on another human being.
Well, we had Steve-O in studio, who I don't know if anybody saw his one-man show when he came to town. I know he's coming back to town again, but he showed video of things. So he did a video. He wanted to be the first guy to jump out of an airplane while, burping the worm. And of course, because he hasn't jumped out of an airplane enough, he had to do it with somebody strapped to his back.
Oh, my God.
So he's literally watching a laptop, and he's on the air telling us the story. I'm on with Garceau, and he goes, I peed white, is what he said. And Scott's looking at him like, what is he talking? Peed white. He went,
Garceau. It's so much better that you were doing it with Garceau.
Yeah. And by the way, today's Garceau's birthday, so happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Scott. Happy birthday to a legend. All right, with that in mind, let's talk about the Mo Gabba dinner.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Let everybody know what's going on.
So I posted it, shared it on social media. There's a crab feast that's going to be at Red Acres Hydroponics Farm. Great people who did an event last year where they raised money for Johns Hopkins Children's Center. So you can go on my social media page. It's on Twitter. It's on Facebook. I've shared it multiple times. If you can't find it, you can send me a message if you want to go. But yeah, like really great people, great food, good times. They're going to have music, guest speakers, all kinds of stuff. And the crabs that they brought out last year for the day after when we hung out after the dinner that we did, they brought crab. They were humongous, man. I'm talking like some of the biggest crabs I've ever seen in my life.
Awesome. Where should people go to find out more? Where can I point them to?
I'd have to get the website in front of me because it's on my, like I said, it's on my Facebook page, but you can go to Red Acre Farm Hydroponics if you want to look that up. But the easiest way is just to go online, and if you Google Mo Gabba dinner, it's coming up next month, and it's on a Saturday. It's going to be a really good time. It's a crab feast, so
Awesome.
Can't go wrong with it. And then they have, the food there is great as well. So just good spot.
Excellent stuff. At Jeremy Conn 105.7. What's coming up on the Big Bad Morning Show this week?
Well, tomorrow we'll all be back finally after I spent a week in COVID. So everybody's back. We'll have some fun, probably talk about some of the Ravens cuts, what's going to happen there, and then focus on the Orioles next series against Cleveland.
Very good. Picks every day, PressBoxOnline.com. Jeremy Conn, love you, buddy. Glad you're better. We'll talk to you next week, all right?
Thanks, man. I'll see you.
Jeremy Conn, Big Bad Morning Show, 105.7 The Fan, checking in with us. Today's show is also brought to you by Simply the Bets, which returns tomorrow morning at 11:40 a.m. We get you ready for the week in sports betting, which, of course, includes a big week in college football. I am very mad about something. First of all, you picked the Ravens to cover.
I did. That's
loser.
true. I did.
I thought I had my parlay. I didn't realize the number was only 8.5 in the New Mexico State-Nevada game. I thought it was 12.5 for some reason. So I literally, as I went to bed on Saturday night, I was like, I nailed it! Nailed it! And then I checked, and I was like, oh, piss. Because I got the Vanderbilt thing easy.
Yeah, I decided to
Vanderbilt crushed Hawaii.
Yeah, late Saturday night, I was like, there was nothing to watch, nothing. And I was like, well, I want to watch this Hawaii Vanderbilt game, so I decided to bet Hawaii money line.
Oh.
So for the first series or two, I was like, let's go.
That is an eternally bad bet.
Yeah,
that is a horrendous bet.
Not a smart decision.
I did have money on Northwestern, so
wow.
I told you all along that there was no world in which Nebraska had earned the right to be a 12.5-point favorite against anyone.
Well, because they beat Northwestern by 50 last year.
It doesn't matter. This is still about Nebraska.
Yeah.
Nothing they had done suggested they should. Now, that being said, they were still up 2 scores in the second half, and then Scott Frost had that wacky idea to try to kick an onside kick. How funny is it? Did you hear the stories about what was going on in Ireland at the stadium? So they
the free
the internet
beer
went out, so they were just. But apparently, they were asking you to write your name down and then come back and pay.
A lot of Donald Ducks and Daffy Ducks, probably.
I'm so sure. I'm so sure that people were willing to do that. Oh, yeah, I got you, dude. Absolutely. Dr. I.P. Freely. Like, Jesus. It's such a bad bit. And then, of course, Navy is going to play in Dublin, I believe, against Notre Dame next year. And so I kept seeing, like, Navy and Notre Dame fans realizing that all they've got to do is knock out the internet, and they get all their beer for free next year.
They had a nice cup snake going as well.
Yeah. It was a pleasant trip for everybody except Scott Frost.
Right.
Everyone except Scott Frost. But we'll get you set up for a full week 1 of betting tomorrow in college football, that is, of course, on Simply the Bets, 11:40 a.m., and Weekend at Bookies this Thursday morning at 11:40 a.m. as well. It's all brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. When we come back in, Tidbit, Two-Bit to wrap up the day, Glenn Clark Radio.
Hey Birdland, arrive early at the Yard on Saturday, September 3rd, when the first 15,000 fans 15 and over will receive the first ever Orioles soccer jersey presented by Pepsi. Don't miss out on this brand new crossover kit before the Orioles clash with the Oakland A's at 7:05 at the ballpark that forever changed baseball. What better way to celebrate Labor Day weekend than with your favorite home team on a Saturday night? Great seating options are available, and tickets start as low as $15 at Orioles.com/tickets.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal,
take advantage of our 24/7 kiosks, massive video screens, and watch all the